ever feel like you're just one face in the crowd? Like, you know, your voice is lost in all the noise?
It's funny you should say that.
Really?
Yeah. We're actually diving into a speech from way back in 1973
Okay.
that tackles this exact feeling.
Wow, 1973. So
It's cold?
what is this? Like the Watergate era?
Yeah. Early 70s to like Vietnam War's winding down,
Mm-hmm.
social changes everywhere. And there's this guy, Elder Marvin J. Ashton.
Okay.
There's a speech called In His Strength.
In his strength. Okay. So is this like a pep talk? What's the vibe?
It's interesting you should put it that way,
Yeah.
because it's not about like the big headline news you'd expect. It's way more personal, you know.
Okay, so what's he talking about then?
Well, he starts with these stories about people, just everyday folks, who call themselves nobody.
Oh.
Yeah, like they don't matter.
Okay.
One story's about this young couple. They're braving this blizzard to get married.
Wow.
And then there's another one about a woman who's struggling in her marriage.
Okay.
And each time Ashton hears this nobody label, he pushes back hard.
Huh. Why did it bother him so much?
He saw it as seriously dangerous, this nobody thinking, called it a destructive philosophy.
Destructive philosophy. Wow, that's pretty intense.
He believed that when we embrace this nobody identity, it robs us of our strength, our potential, our ability to make a difference.
So it's not just about feeling down on yourself. It's like it actually limits what you're able to do.
Exact.
So how do we get out of that trap? How do we stop feeling like a nobody when, let's be real, sometimes life really makes you feel that way?
That's where it gets really good. Ashton uses this parable, you know, the one about the prodigal son.
Oh, yeah, the son who runs away spends all his money.
Right, but there's this moment, right? The son comes crawling back and says, I am no more worthy to be called your son. That feeling right there, feeling utterly worthless.
Yeah, I get that.
That's what Ashton's getting at.
That feeling of like being beyond redemption.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The father in the story, he doesn't buy into it.
He doesn't.
Nope. Doesn't argue, doesn't shame. He welcomes his son back, just like that.
It's like he's saying you always have worth no matter what.
Exactly. It's about remembering that inherent worth. It's about shifting from I am nothing to I am worthy of love, even when I mess up.
That's a big shift. But how do we actually make that shift?
Well, Ashton gives us a game plan, actual steps we can take.
Okay, I like a good plan. Lay it on me.
First up, ditch the self-condemnation.
Easier said than done, right?
True, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And he backs it up with this great story
Okay.
about this missionary who keeps writing letters to his parents,
Okay.
even though they never write back.
Ouch.
And Ashton uses this to illustrate his second point.
Yeah.
Focus on your actions, what you can control.
So, like, the missionary could have focused on his parents' lack of response, but instead, he chose to just keep writing.
Right. He chose to be a good son, regardless of how they reacted. He focused on what he could control.
It takes guts to do that, to put yourself out there when you're not even sure if it'll make a difference.
And that brings us to Ashton's next big idea, helping others.
Helping others. What does that have to do with not feeling like a nobody?
Well, think about it. When we're so wrapped up in our own perceived flaws, it's easy to feel insignificant. But when we shift our focus to someone else's needs,
We forget about ourselves for a minute.
exactly, we tap into compassion, empathy. It's like, hey, I might not have it all figured out, but I can still show up for someone else. And that can be incredibly empowering.
It's like by helping someone else, we remember our own somebodyness.
Exactly. And that's where real change happens, within us and in the world around us.
So we've got ditching self-condemnation, taking action, helping others. Where do we go from there?
Well, Ashton doesn't shy away from the source of our worth. He ties it directly to our identity as children of God.
So it's not about our accomplishments, it's just inherent.
Exactly. It's something we already have, just by existing. But that inherent worth, it comes with responsibility.
Oh, okay, I see where you're going with this.
If we really believe we are somebody, we can't just sit back and do nothing. We're called to act, to make a difference with whatever gifts and talents we have.
It's like that belief that we are inherently worthy, it becomes a call to action. It's almost an antidote to apathy, right?
Exactly. Ashton even uses this phrase, talking about Joseph Smith, when Joseph realized he was somebody. He calls it an earth-shattering impact.
Wow, so this wasn't just some motivational speech for Ashton. He really believed this somebodyness was crucial.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves and how we approach life.
So this shift, it's about moving from feeling like a nobody to embracing our potential, our worth. But what does that look like in our everyday lives? How do we actually make that shift?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's something we'll dive into even deeper when we come back.
So we're talking about this shift, right? From feeling like a nobody to really stepping into that somebody space. But what does that actually look like day to day?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's easy to talk about, but how do we actually live it?
Right, because it's not always easy. Life throws curveballs, we doubt ourselves, we make mistakes.
And we're surrounded by messages, right? Messages that tell us we're not enough, not thin enough, not rich enough, not successful enough.
Ugh, it's exhausting. So how do we tune out that noise and actually start living like we believe we're somebody?
Well, Ashton points to a few key things. He talks about the importance of action, not just thinking about it, but actually doing something.
Okay, so like what kind of action are we talking about?
It could be anything, really. It's about identifying those areas where you feel stuck, those dreams you've been putting off because you don't feel somebody enough.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
And then
Yeah.
taking that first step, even if it's small, even if it scares you.
It's like proving to yourself that you're capable.
Exactly. And every action, every step you take, it reinforces that belief. It's like, hey, I did that. Maybe I am somebody after all.
I love that. It's like this positive feedback loop. So action is key. What else?
Well, Ashton also talks about the importance of recognizing the somebody in others.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about how we see ourselves, but how we see the people around us.
Exactly. Because when we focus on recognizing the inherent worth in others, it shifts something within us. It reminds us that we're all in this together, that we all have value, regardless of our accomplishments or our struggles.
It's like we're all connected in that somebodyness.
Exactly. And that connection, it's powerful. It reminds us that we're not alone, that we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
So we've got action, we've got connection. What else can we do to really solidify this somebody identity?
This might sound simple, but I think it's crucial. We have to remind ourselves of our worth regularly.
Okay, I like where you're going with this. How do we do that?
Well, we can look for evidence, right? Think about those moments when you felt truly alive, when you made a difference, when you showed up as your best self.
Oh, yeah, like collecting those little wins.
Exactly. And then hold on to those memories. Write them down, share them with a friend, revisit them when you're feeling down.
It's like creating a somebody highlight reel.
I love that. Because the more we focus on those moments, the more real they become. They become proof that we are worthy, that we are capable, that we are somebody.
Okay, so we've got action, connection, reminders of our worth.
Yeah.
It sounds like stepping into that somebody identity is an ongoing process, not a one-time event.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination. And like any journey, there will be challenges along the way. We'll stumble, we'll doubt, we might even forget who we truly are for a little while. But that's okay.
It's about picking ourselves back up and remembering that we are worthy, we are capable, and we are somebody.
Exactly. And when we do that, when we choose to embrace that somebody within, it changes everything. It changes how we see ourselves, how we interact with the world, and ultimately how we contribute to something larger than ourselves.
So how do we keep that momentum going? How do we stay true to this somebody identity, even when life throws us curveballs?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further when we come back.
So we're back, and we've been talking about this idea of embracing our somebodyness, but how do we actually make it stick? How do we hold on to that feeling even when life gets tough?
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, right? The deadlines, the to-do lists, the constant pressure to be doing more, be more.
And it's in those moments when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed that it's easiest to slip back into those old thought patterns, those nobody tapes playing in our heads.
Exactly. We start to doubt ourselves, our worth, our ability to make a difference.
So how do we combat that? How do we stay grounded in that somebody space, even amidst the chaos?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Action, connection, reminders of our worth. These aren't just one-time things, they're practices.
Like we have to actively cultivate that somebodyness every single day.
Precisely. It's like, imagine you're a gardener, and that somebody feeling. That's your most prized plant.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
You wouldn't just plant it and then ignore it, right?
Yeah.
You give it water, sunlight, you'd make sure it had the right nutrients to thrive.
So we have to tend to our somebodyness with that same care and attention.
Absolutely. And just like a garden, there will be times when weeds pop up. Those negative thoughts, those self-doubts, they're going to creep in.
So how do we get rid of those weeds? What's our weed killer, so to speak?
Mindfulness. Paying attention to those thoughts, those tapes playing in our heads, and then consciously choosing to challenge them. Are they really true? Or are they just old stories we've been telling ourselves for far too long?
And if they're not true, if they're just those old nobody stories, we can choose to replace them with something more empowering.
Exactly. We can choose to focus on those moments when we felt strong, capable, worthy. We can remind ourselves of our accomplishments, our acts of kindness, those times when we showed up as our best selves.
Because those moments, they're proof that we are somebody.
Exactly. And the more we focus on them, the more real they become. It's like we're rewiring our brains, training ourselves to see the truth of who we are.
And that truth is, we are somebody. We are worthy, we are capable, and we have something unique and valuable to offer the world.
And that, my friend, is a truth worth fighting for.
It really is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this sense of hope and possibility. Because if we can really step into that somebody space, if we can truly embrace our inherent worth and the worth of those around us, imagine the difference we could make.
It's an inside-out revolution, really. It starts with each of us, but it has the power to change everything.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this. Go out there and be that somebody. Embrace your gifts, share your passions, and never forget your inherent worth. Because the world needs you exactly as you are.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. We're all in this together, cheering each other on, reminding each other of our somebodyness every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.